Good morning, everybody. This is Steve Fletcher with a trumpet for my people. Today is September 23rd, 2020, and the Lord put in my heart tonight, as I was in bed, to do a comparison video of Brenda Weltner's timeline of the 7-year tribulation, comparing it to my timeline. Okay, now I want to share with you guys that I believe that Sister Brenda is doing a wonderful work. So many people excited and preparing for the return of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And this video is not in any way to be critical of Brenda or the work that she's doing. She's doing a wonderful work. She's been studying for many, many years, and she's sharing her knowledge. And we all get a lot of things right, and we all get a lot of things wrong. And so this is not the purpose of this video. But we're only 5 days from the Day of Atonement. So we're coming up on the day that is key in Brenda Weltner's timeline. Okay, and my timeline is a little bit different, and it's leading us to December and Hanukkah, and Brenda's timeline is leading to the Day of Atonement, which is just 5 days away. So here is Brenda's timeline, and here is my timeline. And I want to go through both of these pretty quickly. This shouldn't take too long, but I just want to put the two of these timelines side by side and compare them and consider this information. Okay, so the timeline that Brenda has received is from starting at the Revelation 12 sign, September 21st or September 23rd, 2017. Okay, and we're definitely both in agreement that we are in the middle of the tribulation period. The tribulation began in 2017. We both agree on that. And the tribulation will end in 2024. We both agree on that. And the rapture will start the final 3.5 years, which is the reign of the Antichrist, and the final 3.5 years is the Great Tribulation. We are not in tribulation. We are not in Great Tribulation. Now we are in tribulation. The Great Tribulation will not begin until after the rapture of the church. So this is the difference. Okay, this is the difference between those two terms. So if we go from the Feast of Trumpets, September 23rd, 2017, and go up to the Day of Atonement, where we have written here the rapture of the child. Okay, we show here that the first half of the tribulation, the first portion of the tribulation, is 1103 days, and the second portion of the tribulation from the rapture is 1447 days, going from the Day of Atonement 2020, 9/28/2020, going to the end date, which is 9/14/24, which is the also the Day of Atonement for the end of her timeline, the second coming of Christ. And so we've got 1447 days. Now, as you see here, between the Day of Atonement here, and midpoint, the midpoint that she has on April 3rd, 2021, this would be the day of the abomination. Okay, according to Brenda, this would be the day of the abomination. And this starts the final 1260 days, which would be the great tribulation, the wrath of God, leading to the end date on the Day of Atonement in 2024. Now, here's what I think about this. These are my comments on this. When the lady is raptured, when the woman is raptured or the child is raptured, it shows that there is a 1260-day time period where the woman is taken into the wilderness. It's the same time period that is given as the reign of the Antichrist. The woman is taken into the wilderness for 1260 days. At the same time, the same time frame is given for the woman going into the wilderness to be protected for 1260 days. Well, at the same time, the reign of the Antichrist is given 1260 days, 42 months, times, and half a time. Okay, so the comparison here is that from the rapture of the church on the Day of Atonement, 9/28/20, to the second coming, there's 1447 days. Okay, so this to me doesn't seem correct. If the beginning of the timeline was the Revelation 12 sign, then I think that this would take us to, from the Revelation 12 sign, if we want to go halfway point, then this would bring the rapture here at the midpoint together with the abomination, and the rapture will happen together with the abomination. And this will bring about a 1260-day reign of the Antichrist and a 1260-day time frame for the woman to be taken and protected in the wilderness. Okay, the rapture of the church, the escape event. So these are my thoughts on what she is sharing, and I don't see how it can line up correctly on the Day of Atonement here. It's not, this is not the midway point. And then we have this gap from 9/28/20 to 4/3/21. This gap between the rapture of the church and the abomination event, and this is where the Great Tribulation begins. The abomination marks the beginning of the Great Tribulation, the rise of the Antichrist, and there's this gap here. Now this gap goes from 9/28, almost 6 months, a 6-month gap. Okay, so I don't see how this fits. Now, the 7-year timeline going from the Feast of Trumpets, the rapture event on a feast day, Day of Atonement, I think this ends up being the midway tribulation. I think this is the Feast of First Fruits within the Passover week. Well, let's see here. Yeah, anyway, it's close. And then the end date would be the Day of Atonement. So the timeline lines up with feast days, but I don't see the numbers lining up. Like I said, my point in this video is not to criticize, okay? I am sharing a comparison video and showing Brenda's timeline and giving my comments on her timeline. And now I'm going to share my timeline and the differences, okay? There's a couple differences. Now, the timeline I have goes from June 4th, 2017. Now, June 4th, 2017 is two very important key days within Israel. Confirm June 4th, 2017 as 70 and 50 together. Now, June 4th, 2017 is Israel's 70th Pentecost. From 1948 being their first Pentecost, their 70th Pentecost fell on June 4th, 2017. This is also the same day as the beginning of the Six-Day War in 1967. So this is the 50-year anniversary of the liberation of Jerusalem from June 4th and June 5th, 2017. It's the 70th Pentecost and the 50-year anniversary of the liberation of Jerusalem from the Six-Day War in 1967. So we have a double confirmation on the end of the 70 and on the end of the 50. June 4th, 2017, it's Pentecost. Okay? So the timeline begins on a feast day. And Pentecost is known as the Blessed Day. I believe this would tie in with the Blessed Day 1335. Because in any given year, if you go 1335 days backwards, it brings you to the Feast of Trumpets. Now, in June 4th, 2017, it does not apply because there was a leap year within the Hebrew calendar in one of those years. And so there's a difference. And it brings us to the fourth day of the 8th month instead of the beginning days of the 7th month. It brings us to the beginning days of the 8th month. But Pentecost, I believe, is connected to day 1335, that from trumpets to Pentecost you have that connection. So that would be a blessed day, the beginning of the timeline. And then we have 1290 days, which according to Daniel 12:11 is a time frame given to us, and it brings us to December 14th, 2020. Now on December 14th we have the total solar eclipse. It's midweek Hanukkah, and it's also the middle date on both great American eclipses. If you go between both great American eclipses, the middle date is midweek Hanukkah, December 14th. So there's a middle marker, and that's what this is what is shown in Daniel. It's a midweek abomination. It's the middle of the timeline. It's the middle of the 7 years. It's also, as a double confirmation, it's midweek Hanukkah. And then we have a 7-day interval, which could be a final warning to December 21st, 2020, where we have the Great Conjunction. And the sign in the heavens is the Great War and the Great Battle between the dragon and the man-child, the Great Conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. And this brings us to a 1260-day reign of Antichrist, bringing us to June 4th, 2024. Okay, so the timeline begins on Pentecost. We show the rapture and the beginning of the wrath on the signs between Hanukkah and the Great Conjunction between December 14th and 21st. We show the 1260-day reign of the Antichrist together with the signs in the heavens showing us the beginning of the reign of the Antichrist. Then from there we have 1260 days, and that brings us to June 4th, 2024. Now we have two things about this, is that it's a perfect 7-year timeline on the Gregorian calendar. June 4th, 2017 to June 4th, 2024. We've got Pentecost at the beginning, we've got Hanukkah in the middle, and the last date on the Hebrew calendar is the 27th day of the second month. It's IR 27, the 27th day of the second month. And if you go to Genesis 8:14, okay, Genesis 8:14, it gives you the last day mentioned. The end of the flood was the 27th day of the second month. And that is what June 4th, 2024 represents, the end of the flood. Genesis 8:14. So we have, according to the book of Daniel, we have all of this taken into account. Okay, we have 70 weeks are determined. 70 weeks are determined, and 70 weeks represents 70 feasts of weeks. It's representative of Pentecost. And this all ties in with the book of Daniel, the 70 weeks, day 1335, Pentecost being the blessed day. 70 weeks are determined, brings us to June 4th, 2017, confirmed also by the 50-year anniversary of the liberation of Jerusalem. Then we have a 7-year covenant with many, which is the covenant of God with his people, the written word of God. 70 weeks are determined, and then we have a 7-year covenant that begins at the end of the 70. This is God's promise to his people. The 7-year covenant with many, God's promise to his people, the 7 years. And so we have the 70 weeks are determined, beginning the 7 years, from June 4th, 2017 to June 4th, 2024. And it goes on to say in Daniel 9:27, in the middle of the week, there will be the abomination. And Jesus mentioned in Matthew 24, when you see the abomination of desolation, according to the prophet Daniel, and that leads us to the understanding of Hanukkah, the original abomination that happened under Antiochus Epiphanes in the time of the Maccabees, and that was Hanukkah. And so we have the midweek abomination lining up with Hanukkah, okay, and it's at 1290 days. So we've taken into account 1290 days from the beginning of the timeline. We've taken into account from December 21st, the Great Conjunction, the 1260-day reign of the Antichrist. And then in all of this, it's also shown as in the days of Noah, because we have not only the 7-day warning at the beginning from December 14th to December 21st, but we also have the end date of the flood, June 4th, 2024, IR 27. According to Genesis 8:14, the end of the flood was the 27th day of the second month. Okay, I did all of this in a graphic here, and I've shared all of this information in my videos. Let me pull something up for you guys here. 1 minute. So as I've shared with you guys, I have everything documented in 3 easy videos that can be listened to in less than 50 minutes. Part 1, how the Lord gave me the understanding of what I'm sharing. Part 2 is Hanukkah 2020, how everything applies to where we are right now and what we're watching coming up in December of 2020. And then the message that the Lord gave me to go with the signs that I received. Okay, and then we've got this information about the heavenly signs in December by Sister HELENA LEHMAN, and the wonderful work that she did in her blog to share everything with us about the wonderful, amazing signs that are all coming together between December 14th and December 22nd, 2020. Okay, so all of this information I've shared with you in those videos, and so we're just a few days away from this key day. Okay, and man, Brenda's, she's been working so hard for a long time, and she's got a lot of people following this, and this is wonderful information, and yet at the same time, if we come up to the Day of Atonement, and this doesn't happen, she's hoping for the rapture of the church on the Day of Atonement in 5 days. Okay, and I'm not criticizing that at all, because you guys know more than anything else. I've shared many times about specific rapture days that haven't happened, so I'm not getting on her about that if it comes and goes. I'm just sharing that there is we have another option here, another timeline to consider. Okay, and it's a matter of just looking at all the information, all the possibilities, where we could go, and what I'm sharing about December kind of ties in more with the vaccine, the Great Reset they're hoping to do by the beginning of January. Basically, digital dollars and the mark of the beast pretty much coming around Christmas time or December with the mandatory vaccine that's coming. So this is my analysis of Sister Brenda's timeline compared to my timeline, and just want to leave you guys this information. I'll leave the link to the video that I got Brenda's information from, and I think it's pretty accurate to what this was about a year ago she had that video done, and I think that's still accurate to what she's watching today. And so yeah, this is what I wanted to share. I felt led by the Lord to do this comparison video, and I pray it helps to study, to compare, to look at all the opportunities and all the options and all the different perspectives. There's other timelines, but looking at Brenda's brings us to a unity in the sense of mid-tribulation. We're both on the same track of mid-tribulation. There are other timelines that are still looking at 7 years from now and the abomination somewhere in 2024. I don't even really consider those at this point, because I think everything is shown to us that we are mid-tribulation. We know the reign of the Antichrist is only 3.5 years. We know that the reign of the Antichrist is about to begin, and is going to begin right after the rapture of the church. At this point, with everything that's happening in the world, there's no way the rapture is going to happen, and the Antichrist isn't going to come into power for 3.5 more years. That's just not, it's not feasible. It's not correct. It doesn't go together with the 1260-day escape of the bride. It doesn't go together with the 1260-day reign of the Antichrist, which seem to be, the same time frame given seems to be simultaneous. Okay, and so this is what I wanted to share. I do pray all of you guys are blessed. Have a wonderful day. This is Steve Fletcher with the trumpet for my people, the sign of his coming revealed.